got a leaky cup.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
What was that about?
I don't know.
A lot of complaints about the coffees recently.
Yep. I don't like it. Well, I'm going to complain about it. It's more about COVID. So we were on the weekend, we were in Guelph. It seemed like every time I wanted to go grab a coffee or something like that, the lineups were like, so I went once and it was like, it didn't seem like it was that bad. 20 minutes in line waiting for a coffee. Like, what the hell? And we're going another time during the weekend to grab one. It's long lineups. The thing is with the COVID thing, there's a lot of people that don't want to work. Right? So just a simple business like that is
like
they don't have the employees.
So,
they shut down lanes. I noticed they're doing one over here. I'm noticing that more and more.
Yeah,
pain in the ass just for a coffee. So we don't need a coffee that bad.
Slightly separate note.
Yeah.
How annoying is waiting in line for things?
No, it's annoying. Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's nothing. I don't think there's anything that is more of a pet peeve to me, or like. There's nothing that's that worth it to me, I don't think, where I will wait in a line for more than 5 minutes.
Right. Even that's pushing it.
Like, I'm thinking of, like, you go to an amusement park and you wait in line for, like, 2 hours for a roller coaster. It's like, that's not worth it.
There's a story now.
You know?
Yeah. There's a story now. But speaking of that, that's why I like my life.
Yeah.
Like, so I remember it was, like, years ago, one guy that was working with me, I said, do you notice that because we'd get on the ice at 6, so my days always start 5 o'clock in the morning when I go to work.
So I know exactly where you're going.
I drive to work, there's zero traffic ever,
Yeah.
which means zero stress. If I go to get a coffee in the morning, it's pull up, yes, I'll have a coffee, thank you, goodbye, zero stress. No traffic, no lineups, nothing.
Yeah.
So I just got accustomed to that. So anytime I get in a line and there's like 2 people, I'm like, come on, man. Like I go absolutely nuts. So we were in Florida. I'm going to think Charlie was just born. So it's probably 2005, maybe. Yeah, probably 05, 06. He was just a baby. And my wife wanted me to go to Florida. And on vacations, I'm a 4-day tops. Yep. After that, snap.
It gets long. Yeah.
Snap.
Yeah.
So I flew down to Florida separately, get there, great, it's nice, beautiful, sun's out, wow, cool. So my wife goes, we're going to go to Disney tomorrow. I go, we're going to Disney. Like, I already know. And this is my bad attitude, though. Yeah. So I'm trying to be a good guy. We pull into the Disney, and I just look around, and I go, this is going to be a shit show.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the business side of it, and I'm like, all this parking, and it's this much money. Sign in. It costs like I forget how many people it was. It cost me $1,700. So I'm like, $1,700. So, like, think about that. $1,700 to spend a day or two at Disney.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. $1,700. Yeah. So then they took anybody watching this, if you've been to Disney, you know what I'm talking about. They take your handprint or something so that no one else can use your pass because it's your hand. In order to use your hand, you have to cut your hand off. Right? So I'm in there and it's I'm just starting to boil because the lineups, and it's early lineups. So I look at my wife, I can't do this. So then I went and got some water or something for everybody, and it was another $20 or $30 for water. I'm like, what the hell? So I'm like, you're sitting here telling me this is fun?
Yeah.
You stand in line for 2 hours for a ride?
Yeah.
Which you need a water because you're going to pass out and die. So there's $30 in water. So it was halfway through the day, and I said, I'm going home.
Yeah.
I'm done. Yeah, it didn't go over well.
Well, man, I think the same thing, though. I remember when I was a kid, we'd go to these amusement parks, and the process of standing in line is exhausting.
Yeah.
Just standing there, you're not even doing anything. It's like when you go shopping at the mall. Like when I'm standing around the mall, I can walk all day when I'm in here.
Yeah.
But I walk around the mall for an hour and I'm gassed, man.
Yeah.
I remember like when I was like early 20s and everyone's in the going out phase, go to like these nightclubs and stuff like that. It's like there's not 1 ounce of this that's worth it. So if I didn't go up to a door and like the guy that was working the door knew us or whatever and just let us walk in, it's not worth my time. It's not worth waiting in line. It's not that good in there.
No, I used to snap, but I wouldn't be verbal about it. I just try to convince the guys not to, but it'd be like, hey, in Sudbury, right, we go to City Lights. Hey, we're going to City Lights tonight. And the guys would have a few beers at someone's house. And I'd be like, we'll go somewhere else because I knew it was going to happen. Then you got to wait in the line in freezing cold Sudbury, Ontario.
Yeah, freezing. Yeah,
freezing.
Sudbury.
and the lineup would go
Sunday.
around the building. And I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
know.
Why the hell would we wait for an hour outside in the freezing cold? And then when you get in, you want to get a drink, you're waiting in line again.
Oh yeah.
And then it's the element of people. Just
Can't move.
it's I don't
Sardines,
know. It's
man.
not my thing. Yeah. So I'm the same way. Lineups, traffic, humans, all those things bug me.
Well, to your point about the day starting early. So right now, because I'm just soaking in the sleep, like I'm sleeping, I'm going no alarm, sleeping as much as I want right now. Because after the busy time, I'm just enjoying it. But now, when I come here, that's all the shit that starts to happen, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the light on EC Row and Banwell there to turn left. That light, the left turn is 5 seconds.
Yeah, shortest
and
life
there's
is
750 people that are trying to turn left. So you're waiting there for 8 minutes to turn left. When I get here an hour earlier, same thing. Cruise, nobody there. Turn left. It's beautiful.
When I like tomorrow night, we're going to watch Charlie play in Mississauga.
Yeah.
You know where my head's going right now?
Like the drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The drive.
Yeah.
It's not the drive. As soon as you get into that GTA, I don't understand how people can do it. I mean, obviously people do it and they think it's fine, but as soon as I start going and I see the brake lights and I see the slow movement, I go, how do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do it?
Well,
and my stress levels go right up because I'm like short, not like physically, not that short, but I just start getting short on everything. Everything annoys me.
Well, and especially if you're on a time crunch too, like this is a big thing for me when I travel. I do not rush. I do not want to rush. If I want to stop at every rest stop just to get up and out of the car, I want to be able to do that. Like I don't want to. I'm not in a hurry to get there. I'll leave an hour earlier than I would need to just so I can stop as I please. Because you get into a traffic situation like that, and if you're already like pushing the time, then it just ruins your day, like mentally. Just ruins your day.
Agreed.
You know. But I don't. Some people do that all the time. But the waiting in line thing, man, drives me freaking crazy. And people like are dying to wait in line to get in these places. You know, it's like I think it's just because that's more their highlight. Like getting into so that you work your 9 to 5, and then on the weekend you get to go to whatever party or whatever club or whatever event, game, sporting event.
That's another one.
Waiting in line, waiting in line is worth it for you. I don't know.
Chris Draper would always say, "Hey Andy, you got tickets? You want tickets? You want tickets? You want tickets? You want tickets?" And I'd have more excuses than a pregnant nun. Nope, I can't go.
Yeah,
it's the lineups, it's the cost. It's just it doesn't make any sense to me when I could and all the distractions when you're watching the game. It's like, just want to watch the game. I don't need the freaking cheerleaders in front of me and the jumbotron and the guy selling pizza. Like, just want to watch the game.
Well, there's the benefit of being the athlete over the spectator, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you can make it, it's like you don't got to worry about none of this crap. You just get to show up, drive right in, have your game, leave, not waiting for nothing. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. One more thing that I think is funny. So we were in Niagara the other night before the game to watch a game, and my wife and I and Charlie's girlfriend went out for a bite to eat before, and it's like a 4-minute walk from the restaurant to the Meridian Center in Niagara, St. Catharines. So my wife, again, there was a little bit of leftover food, like good food, and she goes, "Well, I'm going to pack it up again," because she just gives her. There's a lot of homeless or street people, right? There's a lot, especially downtown centers that these games are at. Yep. So I have a heart too, but my wife has more of a heart, and she just refuses to eat all her meals, and she'll save some to give it to someone. So remember I told you in Guelph, she tried to give away a meal, and the guy was like, "Nah, I just want change." Oh, so we're in Niagara, and I said, "Just give it to the first one, because you're gonna drive me nuts carrying that box of shit around." So the first guy said, "Here, give it to this guy." So she goes, it was a wood oven pizza, right? Excuse me, would you like a couple slices of pizza? And he goes, "Nah, I'm pizza out."
Yeah.
I said, "Just throw it out, man." The homeless here, I guess, aren't starving.
Yeah, seriously.
It's amazing.
Like, there's no problem.
It's like, but the thing is, it's an asset. Yeah. The pizza is an asset. And if you had any brains, you'd take that asset and trade it for a cigarette or a coffee or something like that. It's still an asset. So he just said, "No, I don't want an asset." Yeah,
that was funny. You're telling me about that. It's like you give this guy, even if you don't want to eat it, it's like take it so you can trade with somebody or something. Yeah. But that's not a thought.
Not a thought. But he was like, "Nah," like the way he said it too. He goes, "Nah, I'm pizza out."
Yeah, that's so funny, man.
Pizza out.
You're homeless.
You're homeless. I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny.
Crazy. Next thing we want to talk about was there's two things just in regards to hockey. So I ran into in a hotel the other day. Hey, coach. So I look, it's one of the kids that I trained who has a brother and all this stuff. So, anyways, there's twins. And then the dad was right behind them. So we're shooting the shit. And I said, where's your other boy? And he goes, oh, he's on another team. And they're twins. I said, oh. I said, so what happened? He goes, well, one is a little better than the other. I go, okay, yeah, fair enough. And then the other one we had to go to another team. So now the difference, the separation in their skill and their hockey level is not negligible, but let's say one's a first D, like a first pairing D, and one's like a third pairing D. So a 5-6. Okay, so you got a 1-2 and a 5-6. So the dad, so I'm just looking at this as this is where I go, what is going on with minor hockey? Like, honest to God. So if I'm a coach, or no, I'm going to build a case for you. Eric, my son Charlie, and my son, what's another friggin' name? Bob. Charlie and Bob. I said, okay, so you want to keep Bob. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, and Charlie, like, is he just not good enough? Or, like, what's the deal? Why are you cutting him? Oh, he's a 6D. 7th D. Okay. Hey, can I get a release so I can go to the same team and travel in one car and pay, and have the one fee and all that kind of stuff? Can I do that, please? And you say, no. Like, or keep both.
Yeah.
Because the difference between, and I'm not saying, hey, if you want to pick the best team, fine, but keep both if you like the number one kid that much, because the number 5-6 guy is not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think he's probably 5'6" easily. Or, yeah, I'm a human. Go ahead, and I'm going to save you $10,000 this year.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
So hang on, let me sharpen it up, because I think just so everyone understands what happened. So both kids are trying out for the same team.
Yes.
One kid made it, other kid got cut.
Kinda, yeah. Like, you're this close.
Yeah,
we can't keep you.
And they're twins.
Yeah.
So as the coach of that team, the guy says, I really like the one son, I don't like the other one. Dad asks for a release.
Yeah.
And coach says no.
Right. Coach says no.
So now he's got a kid playing on one team and another kid playing on another team in the same league.
An hour away
from each other. So he's got to go double schedule.
One game is week. 2.
Yeah. One game is
one
2.
Practice
one practice is 2. And in 2 different places.
2 different places.
The whole year. Like, so is that necessary?
Does that make the number one kid, you happy that your number one kid made the team? No, I hate the coach's guts now.
Yeah.
Like,
my life
is
sucks.
There no room for humanity? Like, just to be a decent human?
So
like, is it? Are you gonna win and lose? Is it that much about winning and losing hockey and power tripping and stuff? Like, it makes no freaking sense to me.
Well, it's getting more and more serious. Like, minor hockey, like, when I flash back to when I played, and certainly when you played, but when I was playing minor hockey, like, up until I was 14 or 15, it was some dad was the coach of the AAA team. You know, we didn't have, in Toronto, it was always, they had better coaches and whatever, people were getting paid to coach and all that stuff. But for down here in the Alliance, for sure, from here to Toronto, all the teams there was like, most of the time it was one of the kids' dads, and maybe the dad played a bit or had some experience playing somewhere or something.
Yeah.
But now it's like, it's getting so much more serious where, like, guys are, like, I was talking to one coach the other day. I'm not bashing these. He seems like a really good guy, but he's been coaching the same AAA team since they were 10. And he's had them every year. No kid on the team.
Yeah.
Just like, he's a coach. He does hockey coaching. We were talking to another guy yesterday, and same thing. Their coach, like, all he does is hockey coaching, So they're treating it so much more serious at a younger age. And I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, because it's probably in some ways good, in some ways it's bad. But in this situation, it's like, is this necessary? So it's like, for the sake of picking the best team, it's like, okay, you're acting more like it's a junior team or something in this circumstance, as opposed to, a minor hockey team where you're dealing with kids that are 15 or 14 or however old these kids were, So it's like, is that necessary at minor hockey? Like, I don't really know, but.
Well, I don't think so. That's my answer, is I don't think so. It's like, I've always said that if someone was playing for me, which I only coached a couple years in minor hockey, and if someone was playing for me, they said, and they came up to me and said, they were honest. They said, Andy, I hate your guts. And I don't want my kid around you. Can I have a release? I'd go, yeah. Sure. Andy, we'd like to play somewhere else because it's closer to home. I'd have probably a conversation, say like, okay, what can I do to help? Like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But is it actually a problem? Yeah, go. I don't care.
Right.
Like, are you gonna be happy? At
Yeah.
the end of the day, like, what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, you think about that from the parent perspective too. Like, so if I'm the coach, especially in this situation, it's like, so you got these two kids. By cutting one of the kids, it's like we were talking about with those two kids that made one of the junior teams around here, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, one kid's better than the other kid. Do you cut one? You know what I mean? Like
A junior, it's a different story though.
But it's still the same like level of humanity decision that you're making, right? Even if it's a junior team, it's like, okay, these are 15, 16-year-old kids.
Yeah.
These kids are 16. Okay, so played together their whole lives. Do I cut one of them? Even though he's like right there in the mix, but maybe there's this other kid that is better and I could take this kid. But it's like that should introduce like a problem in your decision making, because it's like, man, that's tough to do that.
Yeah.
So, and especially in minor hockey, it's like, especially if the other kid's good enough too. It's not like he's shit or something like that, you know?
No, he's good enough.
So
I'm not coaching the team.
Yeah,
I'm not making the decision. If he was 10, not 5 or 6, okay.
I know.
Listen, here's the deal. Your other son's just not good enough.
And that's the seriousness I'm talking about. It's like, where do you draw the line of like, okay, how professional are we treating this, or how, you know?
So the other side is, okay, so why should someone suffer? Like, why would a 5'6" guy that's competing with the 5'6" kid, why should he have to suffer? So as a coach, I would say, okay, so maybe I let go of the better twin. You know, to give the family, you know, you got to make a decision one way or another. But I think it could help the family out. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Plus, he's got another son that plays AAA.
Yeah. Well, that's the where you draw the line on that, right? Yeah. Like, there's, especially when they're kids.
Yeah.
Like, they're kids. Yeah. And is that better for your dad to hate you as the coach now? It's like,
that's what I mean.
You cut my one kid and you kept my other kid. It's like, this isn't actually better. Like, I'm not actually happy about this.
Yeah. You know, I get up, I go to work, and I travel around Ontario, getting my kids to practice and games and stuff. It's crazy. Yeah, the other thing I have, and this is one of the biggest, I don't want to say pet peeve, because a pet peeve is just kind of annoying. But it just drives me nuts. So, speaking to another person last week, and his son made a AAA team, and they are maybe peewee. Okay,
so would that be 10?
No, 11.
11.
Like, so off.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so 11. I think 11.
Okay.
And it might be 10, right? So teams made, but the coach also has a hockey school, runs hockey camps and stuff like that. So the guy wants to make a living in teaching hockey, which is I have no problem with. Anybody can do that if you do a good job, make money. Don't do a good job, if you can get people's money, good for you. But when you coach a team, now you have roughly 20 people that are potential customers, and this is where my issue always comes in. So when you use that leverage to make money on top of, like, so I know that in the minor hockey there's a little bit of money that gets passed down to the coaches. In some teams, in some organizations, it's expenses plus maybe a little bit. And I don't have a problem with a coach coaching and the team and the organizations and the parents take care of their travel, take care of their bill. The coach shouldn't have to pay. I believe that truly.
Yeah,
and I think anytime you're going out somewhere, hey, I got your coffee, I got your, that's not a problem. If you give them a stipend of a little bit of spending money, okay, so let's say a little bit of spending money on your on your tournaments and stuff, like a little bit, okay, or there's an expense account. I'm even okay with that, but I'm not a big fan of paying a coach. Especially when they're young.
Yeah, in minor hockey.
Because what happens is coaching becomes a business. And I saw in the States that people try to just do this as a business. I remember asking one of my assistant coaches, I said, where else do you work, man? And he goes, I coach hockey. I go, what are you talking about? I just coach hockey. So everything they do is for monetary reasons. So you pick your teams on monetary reasons. You get ice time on monetary reasons and all that stuff. So anyways, this 10, 11-year-old kid plays for this team. This coach has a hockey school or trains hockey players as well. And then the team's made. People have already spent for signing up and stuff. I think it's like $5,000 to sign up for this organization and ice fees and all this kind of stuff. So there's a big chunk of money that's just gone out. Team's made, team meeting. We also have a camp that I'm going to be running. That's a mandatory camp. It's a it's like $500-$600, whatever it was. So $400-$500, but you have to go. Well, there's no choice. And even if there was a little bit of a choice,
there's not really a
there's
choice.
not really a choice.
Yeah.
Like because I know
if they say you don't have to.
I know hockey parents.
Yeah.
They're going to say, well, if I don't go, he's going to use it against me, and he might.
Yeah.
But this guy's taking his team and saying, okay, now you have to pay me to do something that is not on the schedule, not in the budget, but I need to make some more money.
Yeah, it's outside of the team thing. You're coming to my business. I'm making you come to my business.
You have to come to my business.
Yeah.
And I've always had a problem with that because even when people come and sign up for mine, when like I always resist doing the teams in the season. And I know most people, like I see people all over the place that see it's a good thing because you're training people, and I get that. But my point is that when someone comes on the ice with me, is because they want to be there, every single one of them, not because they have to. And I think that when I got a couple reasons on this, when a team comes in as a team, then inevitably you're going to have a couple kids that maybe don't even know me, and you're going to come and train with me, and you better listen and do what I'm, my program. Could be I'd have no idea what they're doing outside of their team. So I could be doing something that just actually hurts them if I don't have a clue of a pulse on what they're doing.
Yep.
Right. I don't like that the coaches force that because for many reasons. And one of them could be if someone just doesn't like anything that I do or my gym or anything about me, and you force them to come to my training, it's like, that's not right. It's not right. What if you just like someone else? And so this is what I don't like is when teams, especially enforce it in the summertime. It's like, okay, so I have a group of kids that come up and they spend time and energy and money on me or our program. So let's say they're doing our workout, they're doing our skills or our hockey program, and you've got them in the gym with your program doing these things. And okay, this is real beneficial. Plus Andy's skating. Okay, that's going to be real good. Perfect. Then the coach says, oh yeah, we have a skate on Sunday. We got to off ice with someone else on Tuesday. You just ruined it. You ruined it. You just started to get in someone else's business. And I don't like it, but I especially don't like when someone coaches a team and then they have that business
they can
in hockey in there and they start taking from parents.
Yeah.
There's no at the end of the day, it's not a happy purchase. You know what I mean?
Right.
People aren't saying, oh yeah, I'd gladly go spend more money on you.
Yeah, it's like you're paying my
see every freaking day.
Yeah.
Now you need more?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple of points on that. The only pushback I'll give on the paying the coaches thing is when you're trying to get like quality people to be your coach, though, like what incentive does a good person have? Not a good person, a good coach, hopefully also a good person, to go and take time with that team if you're not making it worth their time. For example, you're a perfect example. So when you were coaching in Bell Tire, it was like, okay, Andy, you should come coach. Nah. Andy, come coach. I don't want to. What if we give you this much? Nah. What if we give you this much? No. What if we give you this much? All right. Like, okay, that's worth my time. Now they have a really high quality coach, and those kids are a lot older, which is part of something to consider. But at the same time, it's like, how do you get somebody who's a quality person, not just Joe Dad that knows nothing? So for example, for me, because people have now come to me, even though I've never coached before, so it's not really appropriate, but people don't really know any better. So they'll come to me and say, hey, would you want to come coach this team, or ever thought about coaching? And I say, I've thought about coaching. I'm not going to, but I've thought about it. And it's for exactly this reason. I don't want to go make you guys pay me a whole bunch of money. And I know it's not worth my time unless you were to pay me a whole bunch of money. Yeah. So it's like, how do you there is some of that you kind of need to attract somebody who's a decent coach or will actually teach your kids something. So there's that like part of it too. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that. But the flip side of that is what I could tell you this. There's not a whole lot of very few coaches that could coach minor hockey that are qualified to get paid.
I agree. Yeah.
Because you hear it all the time. Yeah. They get to the OHL or college and the coaches go teach them hockey.
Yeah.
They teach them hockey. They don't know because of the systems and all that stuff. Yeah, they're a little bit of something or whatever, but they're not.
Yeah, it's not really worth the dime anyways.
Worth it, man. I agree. Even for the kids that I coach, and I'm not too proud to say it, is when I coached Bell Tire and a lot of kids got drafted and they really enjoyed me as a coach, but I'm not the same coach they had in, I was teaching them different things than they would learn in college or in the OHL.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same type of hockey.
Mm-hmm.
So, the emphasis is on winning. What is a good coach? I mean, that's the question you got to ask.
Yeah.
But I understand. Like, listen, I understand. You play in the competitive Toronto markets, and people just have the attitude, like, they think that everyone's not. They don't think that everybody, but they feel like this is the best league in the world, and probably rightly so. And they put together the best teams, and they want to have the best coaches that they feel they can get, and they pay them.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But it's just from my perspective, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And I was fine with Charlie, my kid, and I always say that I don't just talk the talk, right? My deeds, just watch my deeds. And I didn't care who coached Charlie. I liked the fact that a lot of times he didn't have coaching because he had to figure things out on his own. And then when he finally did have coaching, like pretty good coaching, like in midget, Major Bantam, I mean. Coach Matt was an excellent coach, but he's not OHL qualified.
Right.
He's probably maybe a little bit of junior qualified and get away with it, right?
Yeah.
And but he's a great coach for that level.
Yeah.
But it's I like the fact that he was good enough to give them some structure and ideas and treat them properly.
Well, I think some of them have, like, again, to your point, like some of them have like a reputation that they would be a good coach, but they're not really.
Yeah.
And it's like, then you're paying all these coaches all this money,
Yeah.
even though they're not really, because who judges like how good a coach is in minor hockey? Like how are you, who like no one is really qualified to tell who's a good coach and who isn't. And then you just end
best
up,
players win. Usually.
yeah, you know what I mean? So it's something like that. And another thing I was going to say is, you're talking about like team, like having coaches that mandate like team things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking the other day to one of the coaches of one of the AAA teams, and this guy's philosophy is great, and he's got a fantastic team. Like the group of kids that he has, I love working with these kids. And he was saying that he's not, and I was really impressed with like hearing him talk about it. He's like, I'm not mandating any team anything. He's like, I want the kids to work out, and I want the kids to obviously stay on track with the right things, but they're so busy. They have so many things going on. I don't want to just like throw something else on their plate that they have to do.
Thank you.
And it was awesome to hear, because when I called them to talk, because I was trying to get some of their guys, seeing if you'd be interested in doing a team thing, just for the sake of having them come here, so that we like have a chance to work with them and develop them and all that kind of stuff. And I was happy to hear him say, like, I don't like doing team things like that and making them do stuff. And I was like, perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah,
like,
it is excellent.
So can we get them in like on their own? They get to decide
their choice
if they want to come and do the thing,
yes.
And the parents get to decide. It's like, because you don't know, like some kid might be an only child and their parents have all the money to spend on them and whatever. And then the kid on his line, they got 4 kids, all of them play sports.
One's in dance.
Yeah, it's just not in the cards to make 1 extra trip or 3 extra trips a week to do whatever the thing is, right? So it's important to remember that as the coaches. And I was talking to another coach, and we ended up he wanted to do a team thing, and we ended up breaking that up and got him to just let the kids pick if they wanted to do it. And now they're going to come in. They decided to come. They want to be here. Their parents are going to be happy to do what they're doing because they got to pick to do it.
Yes.
And they're not feeling that pressure of like the coaches imposing this on me,
yeah.
like you were talking about, right? So
yeah,
that's something for coaches to keep in mind for sure.
Yeah, like just that's the one thing. Even with the business, I'm very well aware of. Like, maybe it's to my fault, but I'm very aware of what people are spending, and I people spend a lot of money and they have a lot of time. And when you start throwing too much on their plate, it's like you don't want them coming here regretfully. Or kids coming here like, oh, it's another workout. I'm just going to go half-assed. You want them to be here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, it's just, I always found it funny when coaches say, you have to do this, you have to do this. Like, it's 6 nights a week, man.
Yeah. Well, and it starts to take away from other things, like you were saying too, right?
Your life.
Like, what if the 14-year-old plays another sport or like cares about school or has another hobby that they like to do or whatever? It's like now you're like taking away from other parts of their life because you're making it 24/7 hockey before that's appropriate. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, when Charlie was playing in Windsor, we live in the county, so not the coach's problem, but just the simplicity of getting into games and practices on the regular basis and workouts. I work in obviously here in Windsor, he was going to school in the county. So Christine would work just down the road from me. So in order to get him to practice workouts, skates with me, whatever, we'd have to get out to the county and come back in. So we had a choice to either stay at the arena all night for 2 hours or 3 hours, or one of us come back and want to go get it. Anyways, the cars were going all the time. That's with one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the cost gets big.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and that's the coach. It's like they're not really thinking about that. You know, it's like they're not considering, because a lot of coaches that are younger too, and they don't have families. They don't have as much to consider, right? But it's funny, as soon as you get a coach that has a couple kids or has something, then it's like they start to think more about stuff like that. And it can't be all go all the time.
The flip side of that, though, like when I was in Detroit, they wanted to be on the ice every day and stuff like that. And I was like, guys, I was looking at the demographics of where they live, and it was like a lot of people were driving an hour to go to practice and workouts and games and all, like a lot of traveling and stuff. And I was kind of aware of it, but then you can't please everybody either. You give someone a night or two off to go and live their life. And then, you get people going, well, we need more. I'm like, well, I guess you can't win.
Well,
you can't win.
I mean, and everything we're talking about, like, there's positives and negatives to both, right? Like, you pay a coach, something about that might be good, something about that might not.
Yeah.
Practicing every day, something about that might be good, something about it maybe not. But so it's always like a balance of all the variables with stuff like that. So, okay. So today I wanted to talk about, I think this is actually going to be kind of interesting, because I've never heard this like directly from you, like, because I want to get like detailed on what I'm asking. But I was thinking back a couple days ago about, now that I'm training a lot of these kids that are going into junior and stuff, I'm like reflecting a lot about like when I played and reasons why things worked out or didn't. I've mentioned a few things to you, like a few choices I could have made that I didn't make and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And not that I'm coming from any place of like regret necessarily, because like I did what I thought I needed to do with the information I had at the time, but I thought it might be good from your perspective. And then if we have time, we could get to mine. But from your perspective, what you think the reasons are that you didn't make the jump to play in the NHL or whatever. Because from my perspective, from what I know of you, you were like a really highly touted prospect. You played for Team Canada. You did a whole bunch of shit when you were playing in junior. You're obviously good enough from a skill perspective.
Yeah.
So skating, shooting, passing, stick handling, all that kind of stuff, playing the game, like you had the tools, but didn't pan out. And I think it's something that a lot of kids could.
No toolbox.
Yeah.
Tools, no toolbox.
Yeah. Right. So, and I'm sure it'll end up being something similar for me, where it's like that put it all together piece.
Yeah.
Was something that maybe was missing, but I wanted to go through and get your perspective, because I think it's something that relaying this message, a lot of kids will probably be able to start to think about things and how they're starting to progress, and maybe if they're focused on the wrong thing or they're looking at the wrong resource or whatever, and it might be something useful for kids to start thinking about.
Yep. So the first thing is, the first thing is, you said you really want to get in depth with it. And I have, it's very hard for me not because of the hockey, because of my life, my home life and stuff like that. And I say that not because it's just out of respect to my family, that I don't want to sit here and tell the world all my problems.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
So I'm going to put a lot of velvet on the sledgehammer out of respect to my family. And but there's probably a message in there, and the other side of it is, if I was to tell you all those details, then someone out there would say, well, it's not as bad as I got it, and I understand. The second thing is, I don't, qualifying this is, I want to make sure that this doesn't come across as excuse-itis.
Right.
Okay, I don't, because there's no excuses. This is reality, and I'm going to try to say the best that I can.
Yeah. Well, let me. I want to line it up a little bit more too, because what I was going to say to even for me, like the caveats I was going to throw, if I get a chance to talk about my own stuff, the caveats I was going to throw out is, there might be someone listening that knows me and remembers how I played and was around when I played, and they might listen to everything I say and be like, well, that's not the way it was when I was playing with you and whatever. And of course, like, it would be different depending. So this is just like your own personal perspective, my personal perspective. There's details that could be wrong or different or whatever. And then the other one I was going to put out for me personally was like, the bottom line is I just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And looking back, reflecting on it, like, these are just like some of the things that could have contributed to why that was the case. It's not like, well, the coach didn't like me or I got screwed or like any of that's not what what the point of this is.
Yeah.
It's like doing a legit analysis of like, okay, where did I maybe make a wrong move where I could have done something different that would have been helpful. And that's what the point of this is. It's not to like go back and revisit and complain and bitch about things that didn't work out. It's just like to try to provide something that's useful for kids, and so that they can maybe avoid the same mistakes that you made or I made or whatever. So maybe go through if you can go through like your just briefly like your playing, where you started playing, how you progressed up into junior, whatever, and then we'll walk into maybe some of the
it's pretty simple. Grew up in Northern Ontario. You know, I was by the time I hit minor bantam, I was just the best player every time I stepped on the ice. So like, for example, I'd be in a tournament and Brendan Shanahan, who was my age, would see, I remember him seeking me out saying, "Hey man, like, you want to talk to me?" He thought I was the shit, right? And that's just the way I grew up. I had a ton of points. I played hard. I played hurt. I was physical enough, very smart, intelligent hockey player, and I loved hockey. I didn't have anything else. It was my passion. It was everything that I loved. But I'm saying that as a minor hockey player. So that's, a lot of people could say that. But anyways, I was when I stepped on the ice, I was the best player on the ice. Maybe once in a while there'd be someone that, in someone else's opinion, they were better, but not very often. I remember playing in a tournament in Toronto, and I came after a game, and there's a man, back then he looked like he was 112. He was probably like a dad from somewhere, and he was like, "I want tickets when you play in the NHL and stuff like that." That's what I heard all the time.
Yeah. So
that was that. So obviously for me to pursue hockey was a real thing. I was one of the best of the best. So I got to play for Team Ontario, under 18s and stuff like that. It was great. So some of my peers were Brendan Shanahan and Luke Richardson and Brian Marchment and Jody Hull, and I forgot half the guys.
Yeah.
But anyways, all very good hockey players that a lot of them played in the NHL, and those were my peers. That's what I would compare myself to. And we were all drafted together, and I was drafted to the Sudbury Wolves, 32nd overall as an underage, made the team, and I thought, and when I went there, it was fine. It was fine. During that time, my parents got, pretty nasty divorce, and there's a lot of sideshows that go with this. And so the household wasn't really stable, and I didn't have a lot of guidance, if I can say that. When I say guidance, it didn't mean that, the term, when you say you didn't have guidance, a lot of people think, okay, so you're drinking and doing drugs and doing bad things. That's not what I was doing. I just didn't have guidance. My drug was hockey. It really was. Hockey was my drug, and it was my drug until I didn't know any better. Like, till I didn't know that how to deal with it. Okay, so I get to my first year of junior, and I feel good. Nothing wrong. So physically. So I'm just going to go into that. So physically, 1985, hockey players, like, it's old school hockey now. There's a red line, so you're only playing, like, the ice is smaller. There's a lot of clutching and grabbing. There's a fight every 2 minutes. The bigger you were, the better. If you could, if you didn't necessarily have to skate, because you can get your stick into someone and you can, it was a physical game, which I was fine with. But I was only 5'9.5" and 170 pounds when I was 16 years old playing in that league. So really, really, really tough league. But as far as the skating, I could skate with anyone, pretty much. I could shoot a puck. I could put up points. I could make plays. I had agility, and all that stuff. So the physical side, all good. The skill side was as high end as anybody's out there. So like all the hockey stuff, I was fine with. What I didn't understand going into junior, and this is where the guidance and I'm not saying there wasn't any around, but I didn't know where to get it, or I wasn't smart enough, or my head was up my ass so far that I didn't know that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to. Like, there was other sides to the game besides minor hockey playing. So when I went through junior, I didn't know, like, when there was any type of struggle or anything. It was mental. It was all mental.
Okay, wait. Okay, so pause first. So before you go to the mental, because I know we'll get into that for a while. So from the physical perspective, like you're talking about, did that end up being a reason why you didn't make it, though? Like the stature part of it? Like, so because we talk about this all the time, how it was a different game, right? you need to be big, strong. Skating wasn't necessarily the most important thing.
But if you could skate, yeah.
Probably one of the reasons why you could hang out there was because you could skate so well, right? Because you could make up for maybe a size difference with the fact that you could skate, you know? But because of the way the game was played back then, do you think it could have been partly like a timing thing where physically maybe you weren't not that you were the wrong type of player, but you weren't like what was being looked for at the time? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, like I don't care what anyone says right now about, you know, the smaller player has a chance. They do. Like we're talking 2018, 19, 20, 21, maybe through to 25.
Yeah.
They say that, you know, the smaller player, you know, you don't have to be big anymore. And I disagree.
Yeah.
I disagree because you know what the first thing everyone asked when Charlie got interviewed? Size of your feet, how tall are your parents?
Yeah.
Size doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And as you get going, the big guy has more of a
it's
chance.
Just better to be bigger.
It's just better to be bigger. Like to a certain degree, it is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of factors into that. So to answer your question, was size a factor? 100%.
Yeah.
But it's not the factor.
Right.
Because I played with guys like I always say, Tiger Chitteroni, that was shorter than me. He was about 5'7", 5'8", tough as nails. He used to fight guys, and you know, he just had that grit that he knew how to play with his size. But as good as he was, he got drafted to Buffalo late, never made it. And a lot of it would have probably had to do with size. You get leaned on over and over by a guy like Darian Hatcher, where flip the tables. If he was playing now, there's not a chance he'd play in the NHL. There's a lot of guys that played when I played that would not even couldn't play.
Right.
Couldn't play.
Yeah.
So so a timing thing is 100%. That would be very true because at the end of the day, you're 5'9", 5'10" guy playing against playing in the jungle. You're not intimidating anybody, and if you do, it ain't very often. And if you do, you got to do it again and again and again, and eventually you wear out. Having said that, like one of the owners on Charlie's team is Scott Walker. So Scott's about my height. He might have a little bit on me. Late, he broke in the league at 18, and it was not an issue for him. He beat the living snot out of people and played points, and he didn't know that he was maybe on the shorter end because he was just so incredibly tough.
Yeah.
And I didn't have, like, to be honest with you, like I got in my fights, you know, I got my 3 to 5 fights a year. I got into them, and but I wasn't going to do that every day. I'd be dead right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it wouldn't have been a smart thing. That's not my style, but in his style, that worked for him. And so I didn't have that grit to go out and get in a fight every game. You know, I wanted to play hockey as well.
Right.
It wouldn't have been good for me. So
what we're going to kind of end up wrapping with is like, it's going to end up being a combination of things.
Yep.
That is a reason why somebody doesn't make it, who is good enough.
Yeah.
Right. So given that you have the baseline of skills and the hockey stuff, like you're talking about, if you don't make it, there's a bunch of reasons. It's not just one thing. So this could just be one thing that you didn't really have a lot of control over, that for the time you were playing was more of a factor than it maybe would be now, let's say. So,
yeah, it was more of a factor. Yeah, for sure. Like I always say, but it's always easy to say this, right? Yeah. But I always say that if I would have had my shot in the last 10 years, maybe I'm not as good as I think I was, but it would be more conducive to the way I played. 100%.
For sure.
100%.
Okay, so that's that. Continue.
Yeah, so now talking on the physical side, the other thing, but I think a lot of people were in the same boat on the physical side, was I didn't know how to train. Like I ran a lot, and I did get a membership at a gym, and I did my own thing. Like I would consider myself now like fairly intelligent. I do a lot of reading, and I understand fitness, and I understand training and how muscles work and your energy systems and stuff, and what makes sense to me now. But at 15, 16, when I was getting ready to play, I had no idea. I did a lot of running. I heard running is good. So I did a lot of running. So I had a great set of lungs on me, but I didn't do, you know, and then we'd go to the gym. I'd go to the gym, and squats were there, but not tons. But that was and leg extensions.
Yeah.
And I did some sprinting, but that was like totally just, that made sense to me.
Yeah.
But there wasn't anything for legs or like a real,
like a program.
There's no program
to be an athlete.
Yeah. Now I couldn't afford a gym. So part of the issue here, talking to like about 14 and on, so I had to help my mom pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of my time was spent, working, and when I had money, I'd give my mom money so that we could pay rent or get food. So that was like one of my high priorities. So to go out and get uh, whatever it would be back then, even if it was $15 a month, to me it was like, holy crap, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was 20, maybe it was 30, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was a lot to me. And then the other thing was getting there. I had to get to that gym. So I found a gym close to my place. It was at the college where it was cheaper. And I had a membership, and I'd get there as often as I could after work in the summer times and stuff like that. But the workouts itself resembles absolutely nothing
Yeah.
to even the way I train today. So I'm a 52-year-old guy that works out more athletically, obviously, than I did when I was an actual athlete.
Yeah.
So my workouts today have no resemblance of what they were back then. So I grabbed some weights, I lifted them. I thought if I did a whole bunch of them, it'd be good. It took me about an hour usually, 45 minutes, and then I go play badminton or squash after or run.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no benefit to my physical. Now, was there people that had good? Yeah, some guys had some good workouts, but that's it is. So I didn't get physically better through working out.
Yeah.
Did I have the work ethic to do it? Yes. And I used to get very jealous or bitter. That's a better word, just bitter. That I know that I have the talent, but I also know that mom can't afford to get me there, and mom can't afford to help me, and I'd be working a job during the day. One of my best friends would come by all the time and stop as he was going for a run or going to the gym and kind of joke around with me like, working, right? And I'd sit there when he'd leave and I go, man, like he gets to sleep in and he gets to go work out, and his mom makes really good meals. My mom doesn't. It's like, it's hard. It was so as that comes out of my head, there's that poor me. And there was that poor me back then. There 100% there was poor me. Instead of, I didn't have the mental maturity to say, yeah, well, I'm going to get to the gym after my work today, and I'm going to freaking kill it, and I'm gonna, and fuel the fire. Instead, I did have that poor me attitude.
Yeah. So it was like a little like self-sabotage came out of that. Yeah,
1,000%.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that's a different kind of thing to have to deal with. Like a lot of kids now, like kids that have access to listening to this, probably none of them will have to ever deal with anything like that, but they might.
Well, they don't have to deal with anything like that. Like they might not have to deal with anything like that, but I know for a fact there's kids that the parents just can't afford certain things.
Right.
But if you have access to listening to this, then I hope that the message gets through is that it's important that you get this message, that there is no poor me, and that there are ways to get things done, and there's the internet, and there's all kinds of things that there are tools to get there, and there's us.
Yeah.
That if anybody actually needed help, they could actually come and see us.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't throw this out. Who knows what will happen here? But for people that live around here, if it's a true, I just can't afford it or whatever, dude, we'll help you.
Yeah.
This is just the way we are.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's what I was going to say. Like problems end up being relative to what you know.
Yeah.
Right. So kids, if just because you have food in the cupboard every day, you might have some other issue that to you feels like the biggest problem in the world, and that's what the message is like you need to figure out how to like take in the fact that someone's going to have it better than you, because there's also someone that has it worse than you, so whatever your problem is, like you have to try to keep that in perspective. Like at whatever extreme you think you're at in terms of having a problem, someone's got it better, someone's got it worse. So just take like whatever the shit hand is in that situation, and you have to be able to bounce back from that and not do the poor me thing, because I did a ton of that too when I was playing, and I had nothing to complain about relative to your life growing up,
right.
But you only know what you know, so
you only know what you know.
So that's what it is. It's the mindset that you want to pull out of that for sure. So
funny story. Well, it's not funny, like it's funny, but so I don't know. My best friend, I'll say this way, my best friend at the time played for Kingston. And in the summer times, his mom used to be able to cook, and we never had meals like that at our house. So he'd call me, goes, "Back, are you coming over for dinner tonight?" And I'd be like, yeah. So we'd go there, and it was almost like a movie, because he'd just sit there and watch, because he could see I was so excited about having like chicken and vegetables, like a really, really well cooked meal that his mom put all day into and stuff. And she would sit there, and she'd light up a cigarette. She goes, "Here you go." She'd give me the plate of food. And she'd sit there and she'd just light up her cigarette and just watch me eat. My buddy be like, my buddy Cirques would be like, Packard's good, eh? You like chicken like that? Yeah, yeah. You like potatoes? Yeah, it's good. It's good, eh, Packard? So good. But for him, it was every day. Yeah,
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So funny. So then finishing off maybe the physical thing. So you were talking about the training.
Yeah.
And so basically you kind of accidentally did some things that were right and some things that were wrong.
Yeah.
But you didn't really have any
always
direction.
shot my pucks. Always did my runs. Always did. I did some type of workouts and stuff, but I didn't know how to marry the nutrition. I didn't know. Listen, how stupid I was. I didn't even know water was good for you.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe this sounds absolutely ridiculous, but this is how far I've come. I didn't even know water was good for you. I mean, we drank some.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that water was actually something good for you. That wasn't in our household. It wasn't we didn't speak of that.
Yeah.
My dad used to drink when he lived at the house. He used to drink tea, coffee, not too many beers, but he would have beer or orange juice. I'd never seen him drink a glass of water in my life.
Yeah.
In my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
In my life. So it was not there.
So we got the physical thing in terms of like a stature piece, and then we got we'll call it like training from working out to nutrition stuff to recovery stuff. Like that just was kind of non-existent for when you were coming up. So there's two big reasons to start with.
Yeah.
Okay.
As opposed to other people. Then so then I don't know. I can't really say that anything other than that physically, except for not working to make myself better physically. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know what else I could. I know what I could have done. I could have had different if I would have been open to it, and if I would have had access to it, and
all that
information,
stuff for sure.
I would have done a whole different workouts. Yeah.
Okay.
Would have did more boxing. I did a little bit of boxing, but nothing crazy.
Right.
But yeah.
So then when it comes maybe focusing more on like the mental piece now, because I know you got a lot on that thinking. So when it comes, I'll just line you up with a couple things. So obviously
I do it that way.
Obviously there's a couple things like away from the rink. So whether it's your home life and all that stuff, and we don't need to get into details of that or whatever. So that's obviously one thing. But then maybe more towards in game. So like what happened over the 4 years, let's say that you're playing in the OHL, even with Team Canada and all that kind of stuff. What were some things that happened when you kind of reflect back on it that maybe like there was different decisions you could have made, or you could have dealt with certain situations differently, or there was a coach that something happened where if that went differently, maybe something could have happened differently or whatever, a playing situation or whatever you want to go with over those 4 years in junior. What were some of the big things strictly from like the hockey perspective? And it can be a mental thing, obviously, but that maybe kept you from taking a step into the next level or being noticed for NHL wise or whatever. Yeah.
So to me, it was two sort of mental things. It was a mental and emotional. Okay. So I was not mentally prepared in any way, shape, or form. I've learned that as I went, and emotionally was not prepared at all. So I always said, I always thought hockey players are just hockey players. And I was a young 16-year-old kid with zero guidance. So I thought everybody was kind of like me. They're just hockey geeks. So when I walked in the room and the last thing guys were talking about were hockey, I was like kind of shocked. So emotionally, I just wanted to fit in. And like when I say fit in, it's not about doing things with the guys and stuff, but I wanted the guys to obviously like me. Right. And they did. But I was a little kid. What 20-year-old kid? 20-year-old wants to hang out with a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. I didn't know the difference, right? People usually like me, but I was insecure, and I just wanted to fit in the room, and I thought hockey would do the talking. So emotionally, I was like in the room trying to fit in. The coach would not say hi or bye or didn't speak to you at all, which I thought was kind of weird. So that was playing on me, and the size of the guys and some of the guys being in shape, like you're sitting there going, okay, I just want to fit in. Like I'm small. I'm not the cool guy anymore. So like that was one thing, but it played on my head. But mentally, I had zero mental toughness. Like I shouldn't say zero. I had some because I survived. So the first incident that happened was first game. We were at home against Windsor. I had 2 points. I thought I played really well. Whatever, I know, but I felt very comfortable. I took some big hits from like some big D, and I did my job. I got my regular shift. Ended up with 2 assists. That's a pretty good game, and I felt pretty good. The next game, we were playing the Hamilton Steelhawks, and I got 0 shifts. So as a young guy, no one ever explained to me, ever, that when you get to this league, this 4 or 5 year difference in players and guys that are drafted and all this stuff, you got to learn the league and all the things that you just be aware of. Just, don't take things personally. Just, keep doing the work. I was sitting on the bench after, about halfway through the first period, like with tears in my eyes, going, what's going on? I'd look at the coach, like, I'm right here, eh? And not one shift. And it wasn't, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything right. Didn't give me a chance to play.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, the coach was probably saying, okay, this is a top team, tough team, big team. They're playing their top 2 lines. Shane Corson just got sent back from Montreal. Like, maybe that's what it was. I don't have no idea, but all I know is I got off the ice and I could have took my clothes off and went home because I didn't sweat once.
Yeah.
So that hit me. Like, I didn't even get a shift, and it was like emotionally like, this is horrible. I'm no good. That's really what I said. I'm not good enough. The coach hates me. Those are the words that went through my head.
Yeah, for sure.
So then the next game was whoever it was, and the shifts were like kind of normal, but not really. And then the shifts just kept going up and down, and I didn't know what to do. Having said that, the coach was not there to help. My first year, the coach came to about, and I'm not exaggerating, if I remember him coming to 4 or 5 practices, maybe. And then a lot of the times he'd come in the last 10 minutes of practice and jump on the ice. So our captain was running the team. So I remember being in the OHL, but I didn't know the difference. I didn't know that there was actual coaching. But I remember coming off the ice one time in preseason, and I was on a power play. And I was, I came with 200 and some points I was drafted with. So I came in, I was looking for a play, moving my feet a little bit, and I made a play and didn't score. But I got to the bench and he yelled at me for moving my feet. He goes, on a power play, you never move your feet. So I'm sitting there, but I couldn't even process, like, you're an idiot because you didn't tell us anything.
Yeah.
You're coaching after the fact. You never implemented one thing. Yeah. So it was like, okay, I did that wrong. And everything I felt like I was doing was wrong. And I didn't feel like he liked me at all. So as a 16-year-old kid, emotionally weak, mentally weak, you're not even getting coaching. You don't understand why you're not playing. The guys don't give a shit if you're not playing because all they care about is that you're playing. Mm-hmm. So now that those insecurities play. And when you have insecurities and you don't know how to deal with them, it takes a toll on your game. It literally took me 2 years to get through that.
Yeah, seriously.
Plus I was injured.
Yeah. So listening to that, just like you're saying from like on the bench, you don't know why you're not playing or why you're playing. You can't see any pattern to the behavior of like, hey, why did I get some shifts this game and not the next game? Or you've never felt what it's like to be benched before.
Right.
Because you're always the top guy that was always playing all the minutes and scoring all the goals and all that kind of stuff. So now you're jumping into a situation where you're not that right now.
So it was that. So you don't understand why you're not playing. I honestly couldn't figure out. I didn't know what else I could do. I knew that I was a point getter, so I got to get points, but I can't get points if I'm not on the ice. I didn't know anything about roles. We didn't have roles, except the only roles that we knew that we had is that there was guys that looked like gorillas that used to beat the shit out of people. That was a role. I knew that wasn't going to be my role.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to ask about a role, and the coach was not approachable. I didn't know who to go to, and I don't know if I would have.
Yeah. So there was
I felt very helpless on what can I do to get better.
Exactly.
And I didn't know who to talk to, and I don't know if I would listen. And I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on that just made me feel like you're not good enough. It took me, like I said, 2 years to figure out how to get through the thing. But the other thing is, when I actually when I have reflected on it, I used to say on my first year, because I used to compare myself, which is always a bad thing to do. Like, and I'm saying this for kids, like, just be and parents, this is something that you really want to be aware of, is because I came from being a top pick to not sure of myself. And then I would compare, like, Brendan Shanahan was having his first year was great. And I used him as, he was a peer. Like, he was a peer. That's who I was kind of like competing with. And he was like, maybe by Christmas time might have 12 goals or something like that. And I think he even became assistant captain of the London Knights that year. He just had a phenomenal year, and he was really like talked about in the NHL circles. And I was sitting there with maybe 9 points. I sit there, okay, like what's going on? I would compare myself to like those peers, and when the thing is, kids, is when you compare yourself, it's never a good thing, because if you compare yourself to someone that's doing better, or maybe their opportunities or something else is different, or they got a different work, whatever it is, they're succeeding and they're doing well, that comparison is not fair. And if you're comparing yourself to someone that's lesser than you, then it's not a fair comparison either.
Yep.
So the comparison would be like, okay, I'm not doing well, but says who and says how and says why.
Yeah.
But when I reflect on it, I'm like, I was doing just fine. I was doing just fine with not knowing anything. My numbers were fine, relative to your shifts, relative to your age. What I didn't understand, and no one ever told me, this is not poor me, but it was like no one ever told me this is a process. Like, Andy, like I would have maybe died to hear this. Is like, Andy, you're 16 years old. You've got 4 years before you're ever gonna even come close to an NHL thing. What you need to do this year is just continue to work. Work hard in practice. Get in that gym. Eat the best you can. Just give me the steps on, and maybe even coach you on that. But it wasn't there, and I didn't know any better. But I didn't understand it was a process. I thought, like, at 16, I literally thought I was going to get a ton of points and be on a power play. I literally thought that, and it was the dumbest thing I've ever. Reflecting, it's like you had no clue, but I actually had no clue.
Right.
So I was like devastated. I'm like, I'm not getting the ice. I'm not putting the points up. The coach hates me. I'm one of the smallest guys in the league or on my team, and I don't think I'm very good anymore.
Yeah,
and that was a downward spiral there.
Yeah, so
I didn't understand the process.
Well, actually, you end up using one of the words that I was going to use to describe what you're talking about. But talking about process, but before that, basically, you're sitting on the bench and you didn't have the skill yet. Like what we talk about all the time is like things like being honest with yourself, being able to analyze the situation that's going on around you, being able to like self-assess how you're doing relative to where you need to be and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you just didn't have that skill. Like there was just none of that was in you yet because no one ever told you. And for a kid, like for most of these kids coming up, because I didn't have it either. Like when I was 14, 15, 16, like I didn't know how to do that either. But I had more resources than you did, and people were at least bleeding some of that information to me. So I had somewhat of a clue, even though it wasn't a good clue or a well-informed clue on where I should be or what I should be doing. So that's a huge piece that kids need to take away, because you coming from a position where you're in the OHL, you're a high pick. There's no reason for you to be sitting there thinking like I'm shit.
No,
you know what I mean? But you just didn't know the difference. So I'm hoping that kids listen to that and they start to think of that for themselves, right? And we talk about, what's your role? Where should you be? Where should you be physically? Where should you fit in on this team? And being able to ask those questions. Yeah. And you just didn't have that ability. You just thought, I need to be a top guy, score all the goals, whatever.
But even like as you're saying that, I'm thinking, okay, so if a kid listens to it, like there has to be, you have to get it.
Yeah.
Like, so even if someone said, and I had the attitude, just work hard. But then what does work hard mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean? You can skate as hard as you want, and if it's unproductive or not within a system or whatever, then what does that mean? I didn't even know what that meant. So like, and do I want to, like, maybe if it was, like I know in Charlie's situation, there's clear expectations from, I want to see you do this, this, and this. Now it's his choice, right? And it might not be a role that he wants to play sometimes, or like if I was in there, if they said, okay, I need you to carry, be good in your own zone, this, and this. Okay, I would have locked in. Okay, I'll do that well. And I need you to get 1 shot, 2 shots on net a period. And I need you to make 3 hits, like solid hits. If that was a thing, I would actually have done that. Work on my D zone. But there was never anything like that. Right. So it's like, again, it's not poor me. I just didn't know how to seek it out.
Yeah. And so
but there's nothing. Working hard, man. Well, I don't know what that means. And grinding when I would go that way, it would also go but and roll back. So the point I wanted to make was that when kids do this, when you hear the work hard and when you have your shit sandwich, is work hard is yes, but have a long-term approach to it. It's not going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it fun though, because you're going to make progress, but you're not going to hear something once and do it and it's going to be solved. You need to hear it and you need to understand the process of going through it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%. Well, because what I was going to say about the work hard thing, like work hard, it's like, like you said, what does that mean? That's too general. It doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? No. So this is good for players, for coaches, and for parents too. Like if you're going to try to give the kid advice, or for the kid playing, like if you're going to try to give yourself something to do, make it something more specific than work hard, because work hard doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Obviously work hard, try your best. Yes, obviously. Okay. But like, what do I actually have to do? Like specifically, what do I have to do? So if you're a coach, a parent, or the kid, like you need to have actual things, like tangible things you can do. Make a hit, have a shot, make a good pass, like play well in your D zone, have a good stick, something like that. Like these are things that you specifically need to have in mind, because otherwise then you're just a fish out of water. Like you're saying on the bench, like you have no idea what to think about anything that's going on, and that's not helpful. Because now you have nowhere to go. There's no step you can take in any direction, because you don't even know what the possible directions are. Because no one has given you anything to give. Right. So that's what I want to say on that one. And then the other thing you were talking about at the end was like you didn't understand that there was a process. And this was something that for me, I struggled with too, is I got focused on results a lot more than process. And that sounds like something that you were doing too. You're focused on, I need to get points. Well, how do I get points if I'm not playing? That means I'm failing. That means I'm not good enough. That means whatever. As opposed to, like you said, putting it in context. You're 16, you have 4 years, just like stay the course, like do the work you need to do, focus on the things you need to focus on. Like here's number 1, 2, and 3 that would be good for you, that I want you to be good at. And that'll take some guidance. That takes like someone to help you with that. But if you're in a position where you don't have that, then you can try to give yourself that, So in terms of a process for a kid, when you're in junior, it's more difficult because you have that age gap and all that stuff. But even before that in AAA, like start to outline for yourself things that you need to do, and focus on that, and not, I need to score 2 goals a game. Like that's not a good idea.
No,
I need to get 2 points a game. Not a good idea. No. Like those are things that aren't process. Those are results driven. You need something that's process driven, making sure you're playing the right way. Because you could have a shitty game and just be in the right spot twice and score. But still play like shit the whole game. So is that better? It's like, no, that's actually not better. And that was something that I had a problem with playing, is I was always focused on that. Like what is the outcome all the time, as opposed to making sure I'm doing things the right way. Because then over time that leads to the better result more often, because you're doing the process correctly, And then for you going through junior, like that process of going from 16 to 17 to 18, knowing that you have that time to develop. And you talk about Charlie and how that seems to be well outlined for him right now.
Well, the beautiful thing with him is that, he grew up with guidance. So he's had myself and you and a whole bunch of players talk to him about the process of hockey. So that's a good thing there. Number 2, he goes to this team and he had an idea of what type of player he was, and he's always had me in his ear saying, you can score goals, but there's other things that come with it. And then he goes to Guelph, and it's outlined for him like basically 3-4 things that he needs to do on a consistent basis. So now the mental toughness part comes into this. So one of his things is he's got to be a physical player. Okay, so that's one of the things. I'm not telling any secrets here. Coach wants him to run guys over, go through people. So that's like, okay, to go through people. Now, the mental talent challenge now is he knows what to do. He's got 4 things that he needs to do. One of them is to run over people. So now when he goes on the ice, if he chooses to figure skate by someone, do a drive-by, he's choosing to not follow a role. That's a choice. And yes, sometimes it's not there. You're going out of your way, so you got to make an intelligent decision. But the mental toughness comes into doing that role, because it's mentally tough, but it's also physically tough, because now you're in that battle of wills. So he's not the biggest guy in the league, and he's not the oldest guy in the league. So for a 16-year-old boy to go up against a 20-year-old defenseman that's 6'4", 6'5", with a little bit more grizzle on him, that battle of crashing into him 12 times, 15 times, 20 times a night now it's a mental battle. It's a battle of wills. So this is where his mental toughness is going to come in. It's not so much that he's lost. It's more of making a decision to do that on a consistent nightly basis, shift after shift. And if he chooses to do this well, that's not the only thing he does, by the way. It's just part of his game that he needs to be effective at. That's so you can bring something to the team as a young guy. And then, and then he can make plays still, and then, his D zone stuff. If he can do that, then he's going to have a chance of being a pro. If he chooses not to do that, then he's going to have to mentally zero in and get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. It's a different kind of mental toughness than something you had
It's
to
a
deal
better
with,
mental toughness.
yeah.
Because now at least you know exactly, okay, I didn't want to be mental. I didn't choose to be mentally tough today.
Yeah. Well, you have some direction.
Yeah.
Like you have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
You know, and now like you said, it's not he needs to figure out what to do and then try to do
Yeah.
it. Now it's like, no, you know what you have to do, and you just
Yeah.
have to choose to do it or not do it now, right?
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a different thing on that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of getting. I don't know if that's all you had for the mental thing, or if there's anything else you want to throw on that.
Yeah, just I wrote a few things there. I didn't know how to get out. I got to put my glasses on.
Yeah.
I wrote a couple things down. Didn't know where to find help. The stress of the home life was like tremendous. I told you a lot of the stuff that was going on. It was tremendous. Didn't understand the process. Everything was a shock. Like everything. Like the first game playing. Like I said, it wasn't the hockey part. It was, like facing off and you had a full beard in front of you and 6'4" with stitches in his face, and you went,
yeah.
No one ever told me that.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
Yeah.
Not consistent enough. Like even later in my career, just wasn't consistent enough, and that was partially because I still didn't understand my role, which most guys probably didn't, anyways.
Well, I want to stick on that for a sec. That's a really good point, and it's like kind of a subtle thing, because that was something I didn't articulate it to myself that way, but that was something I struggled with too, is not consistent enough because I didn't know exactly what kind of player I was, So in my position, like, so I was bigger, like a little bit bigger than average, maybe, and I was never taught ever to be physical, never. So in my first year of junior, that was the first time anyone ever told me. My coach brought me in, and thankfully he did, and he was telling me, you need to do other things than just try to get points. And I was like, oh, didn't know.
Right.
Like I didn't know the importance of finish. It sounds stupid, but I didn't know the importance
Things
of,
have changed.
Yeah.
Though.
I didn't know the importance of finishing your checks. I didn't know the importance of, because I'm a bigger guy, there's things that I can do with my size that other kids can't do. I didn't know that. Like no one told me that. And it wasn't something that people who were teaching me hockey up to that point knew either. So nobody told me about that at all. So those pieces were missing. So it's hard to be consistent when you don't exactly know what your goals are each game in terms of what you should be doing. Because if you know what you should be doing, like you said before with Charlie, then you can, I need to work towards this. I need to work towards this. I need to work towards this. But if that's not defined for you, then how the hell are you supposed to know what to do every game?
Yeah.
So it's hard to be consistent when you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing. So it's really important that if nobody tells you, then you need to figure out what your role is on your own so that you can actually work towards that. And that will really help the consistency thing, which is a huge problem for a lot of kids, right?
Yeah. Well, and so I was just, as you're saying that, it's very funny. I think I've said this before, but a few years ago when I was doing this, I was doing the skills for the Windsor Spitfires, and Bobby Jones was on the ice with me. Well, all the coaches came on the ice. And I went up to Bobby, who coaches in Ottawa Senators now. DJ Smith was there, and all these guys, Boogie and Reichel. Anyways, they were all on the ice, but it was my practice to run for skills. So as we were warming up, I go to Jonesy. I go, Jonesy, how many coaches did you have on the bench when you played in the Sioux Junior, 1985 to 1990? And he goes, one. I go, same, one. And I said, in Hamilton, we had an assistant coach one year. He goes, yeah. He goes, crazy. I go, look at this. I go, there's me as a skills coach. There's you, DJ, Boogie, and Warren came on. There's 5 coaches on the, and a goalie coach. There's 6 coaches on the ice right now.
Yeah.
Said we never had that. In fact, my coach never even came to practices. We had to figure it all on our own. So with and most teams are like this. So I'm just gonna go through Charlie's team right now. Look at what you have right now. So he has George, who's been coaching in the league or the NHL for the last 32 years. Experience. And coaches are a lot more, they communicate a lot more. So it's not so, like, George is pretty gruff, but he's great. He's great, gets the point across, and he's got assistants. So he just hired another assistant. So they have 2 excellent assistant coaches. Excellent. That they communicate, they spend time with kids, they're involved in like all the aspects of them. They're friendly, but you can talk to them and you get along with them. So that's a bonus. Then they have 2 skills coaches and a skating coach. So they got 6 coaches now. So the 2 skills coaches, Corey Locke played in Ottawa, played in pro for a bunch of years, but he's 160 points with the Ottawa 67s. Almost broke a record. He's one of the skills coaches that spends time with the kids and teaches them, do this, here, in this situation, this, in this situation, this. They got Denver, that's a Leafs skills coach. That's part of their team that spends time with them once or twice a week after practices as well or during practice. Plus, they have Barb Underhill, who's a skating coach.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they have a mental toughness coach, which is huge. So we're up to 7 to 8 coaches now.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Plus, they have 2 strength coaches plus a athletic therapist that helps with stuff. So they're like 10 coaches.
Yeah.
And the point I'm saying to that is like now, like so you were saying like you didn't know. That's only like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But how it's evolved now is that if you actually want to play, all you have to do is ask questions, and then once you hear the answer, do the work. It's so good. So I, as a dad, because one of the biggest things I've always said this even from a young age is like, you know, people would say, so you want, oh, he's going to be a hockey player. You think he'll be good. Do you want him to play? And I answered it very honestly saying, I don't know. I don't know, because when I look at, I am who I am today and I've come a long, long way, but I look at 16 to 22 years old, how I was just scrambled eggs up north of the eyebrows, just scrambled eggs and just emotionally
lost,
spent.
Mm-hmm.
And hated, like I doubted myself in every aspect of that you can possibly imagine. And I don't, and physically, you know, like I always say, these eyebrows don't look like this because I pluck them. There's you know, hundreds of stitches in my freaking eyes and loose teeth, and you know, and I'm like, I don't know if I want that for my son. I don't know, because it was a long, lonely road. A lot of nights you're laying in bed just going, yeah, God, this is hard. It is supposed to be hard, but you're sitting there and it's just emotions just ripping you apart. And I didn't know how to deal with it. But I look at how my son, and I'm not just saying my son, but how kids can come through this now. And there's actually very, very good people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of them. So if you go to a team like my son's team, I'm just so I can't even tell you how thankful I am. He's got a coach that wants to if you want to be a pro hockey player, listen to me. He's gruff, but he's honest and he's great. But he's got knowledge and he shares knowledge. He's got assistant coaches that actually care, and it's not all about them. It's about the team. It's like, truly, there's so many good people in place. It's up to you not to succeed. And then it'll come down to the point that probably just, if you don't make it, it's just because you're not good enough.
Yeah.
If you do everything right. And that's a good way to end it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and there's, outside of the people too, there's just resources that you can get to, right? Yeah. Like you can go find people, you can go find resources, you can go find those things to get yourself centered, so you're not like feeling like you're lost.
Yeah.
Because even now, like, and maybe you feel the same way, but when I think back for myself, I didn't feel like I was lost at the time. But when I think about it now, it's like, dude, you were lost, man. Like, you didn't have a clue. Like,
the first 2 years, I knew I was freaking lost. I knew that I was like not a clue. Mm-hmm. I just went out and just tried to survive the day every single day. And it's really tough, because when you have that stress, it plays with you in a lot of different ways. By my third, fourth year, I didn't think I was lost, but I was lost.
Yeah.
I was at the airport waiting for my ship to come in. Yeah. I was lost. Yeah. Lost. Like, not a clue. All I knew is I was pretty good at hockey, and it got through. It got me through some of life. But I'll tell you, man, I was so lost. There's so many times I was sitting there going, I want this to be done. I'll be glad when this hockey thing is over. I'll be glad. And then then you'd have a day or two or a week where it was the best thing ever. Like, everything was clicking and it was like, okay, but I couldn't figure out why.
Yeah.
Why is it clicking? Why is it going well?
Yeah.
Why is it going bad? What just happened here?
That reverse engineering thing.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, you know, the comparison thing, I'd look at players that I played with, and I'm like, I am better than you. Like, why is he a first line guy? I'm better. Like, I win all my face-offs. I knew I did that well. I made more plays. I finished hits. I had a little bit more grit to my game than this guy. But why? And I couldn't actually process why. I didn't. But maybe he did things obviously better.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't understand the other thing. This is to be true. Is I didn't understand, like, if I was to look at myself, which I have, through the lens of someone else from 16 to 20. I don't know if I would have liked that person. And I don't mean the person, because I think you could figure out that the guy just didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
But if I could look at it through my eyes now, I'd say, "Oh boy, like don't wear your hat like that." Like, not that I was a punk. I didn't have nice clothes. I didn't have, like, nothing about me was like, yeah, this guy's got it together. It'd be one of those kids that you actually might say, God, he bugs me.
Yeah.
You know, I was, and I was like, you know that I'm a funny guy.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of my strengths to get through. Well, one of my strengths to get through life was humor. Okay. Whether it was off ice, on ice, whatever, it was humor. I could always laugh at myself, but I did that as a defense mechanism. So everything was like very funny. So even on the bus and stuff, that's what I mean by looking at it from someone else's eyes. When the guys are around me, they'd be just laughing. Like, you see when someone calls me, they're like, Parker, and we just start laughing. My old buddies, right?
Yeah.
But that, to me, like, when I look back, it's like, okay, so he's playing okay, but he's the clown. He is, and the advice I would have for myself is like, settle down on the clown shit, grab a book and shut your mouth for a while.
Yeah.
Not that I was a mouthpiece, but it was like, always, if there was something hilarious happening, I was probably involved.
Yeah.
So, from a coach's perspective, maybe it came across like I didn't care as much.
Personality thing, yeah.
But I didn't know.
Yeah, that could be an element too, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, that's good. Is there any other things you want to touch on finishing off? I got a couple I could throw in. We got a couple minutes maybe.
Just give me 2 seconds and I'll see.
Yeah.
When it came to the adversity, I just didn't know if and I'm being honest here, I don't know if I wanted to go through it or if I knew that it was adversity. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just didn't know what it was. And I didn't know how to fight through some of the stuff. I just didn't know. No direction, and just had the stress of my home life. It was just, I wasn't able to separate that.
Yeah.
It was because it was around me all the time.
Yeah.
And it was heavy. And I mean, people had it worse, obviously. I'm not saying it that way, but it was heavy. Heavy. That just weighed on me, and it took away from a lot of my focus. Like, when you're trying to do something as hard as being a professional hockey player or just succeeding in the Ontario Hockey League or college, your mind has to be right.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of stuff coming at me from a lot of different directions, but that's not an excuse. It just is what it is. Just didn't know how to deal with it mentally. And I want to hear some of your stuff.
Yeah, that's good. Mine's actually pretty different though. So this is actually good because I think mentally for me, I was actually pretty all there, like mentally. Like I one thing like that my parents were really good at was teaching that like resiliency piece and like how to have a brain about things. Like that was one thing I really got when I was a kid. The critical thinking, problem solving, being able to handle, like my dad was hardcore about like, dude, if some shit happens, like tough, like figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I had a lot of support in that way, which is not what you had. So I'll have a couple different things, but the first one, that just because these ones are easy, like physically, I think, because I do actually believe that outside of like, for me, I would say I wasn't good enough overall, like I said to start, but I do think from a skill perspective, I was. And so physically, when I think about, the training part and the nutrition part and whatever, I came from a family where no one in my family was an athlete. Like there was not one person in my immediate family, my extended family, that was like a serious athlete, where it was like they were dialed in on, they played high level sport, they were dialed in on training, they had experience like doing anything that was like significant in terms of having a lifestyle of being an athlete. Yeah. So I was the first one. So I was like, had to figure out all this kind of stuff. So I had no resources to go to, like you were saying with you, in terms of athletics. So training, I worked out like a bodybuilder because I didn't know how to train properly, and I couldn't afford or didn't know who to go to learn that. So like you go to like some athlete trainers, you're going to pay like $500 a month for like, we had 4 kids in my family and like my dad's not paying for that.
No.
So that was one thing. The nutrition thing, I came from like the big Italian household, and it was just eat as much as you can until you feel like you're going to explode. That's what full means, which is not true. And so I didn't know how to eat. So I would intentionally, because I had like mentally I was there, like mentally I was dialed in, but I intentionally worked out the wrong way. And then I intentionally tried to take care of my nutrition, but the wrong way.
So you say intentionally worked out, but you did it the wrong way.
Yeah, I did it like
you didn't intentionally work out the wrong way.
Right. I worked out with intention.
Yeah.
It was just the wrong way.
Just the wrong type of work.
And then I ate with intention, but it was the wrong way.
Yeah.
And those are two things that hugely affected me on the ice, because you were talking about you used to run, like you thought running was good.
Yeah.
And so you would run. And like that's actually great, because the endurance that you have on the ice, which is something you need, that work capacity is huge for hockey players. I never worked on that.
Yeah.
Just didn't know. Like, obviously people say your endurance is important and whatever. So I would do some of that. But when I was in the gym, I didn't do specific work for that. And that was something that ended up hurting me. And because I was big and bulky on the ice and I didn't have the lungs to go with it. I couldn't handle my frame internally when I was playing. So I would get tired. Like, I really remember that feeling, like, when you step on the ice and it's like, man, my legs are gone. Like, I don't have legs today. I feel like I can't move. I had that like most of the time. I remember having that most of the time.
I typically never did.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd get to shifts because you have no choice coming back where you think you're going to die.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like, everyone gets that, though.
Yeah. It was
what
like
a feeling that is, though. Like, when you think about hockey, my wife asked, like, we watched one of Charlie's games on TV the other night, like the replays, and they showed when he got to the bench after not even that, like, he throws hits. Yeah. So it just gasses you. Yeah. He was on the bench and you could just see him. She goes, is he not in shape? I go, honey, you have no idea what 2 hits and up and down the ice twice hard is like.
Oh, yeah. Max intensity.
It's what we all do. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I vividly remember, like, most of the time feeling like I can't move. My legs feel like they're 200 pounds each, Yeah. So, and that was directly because of my training and the way I was eating. Terrible. So those are 2 things. And I think if I would have had someone in my family who was an athlete, that would have been something helpful, because I would have had some direction in that. But I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. So I thought I was doing things the right way, and it just wasn't. So that was one thing. And then what you were talking about along the same lines, this was one where it was kind of similar, is I always was preoccupied with stats instead of process. So I was always worried about, like, how am I doing, like, on the score sheet? Like, am I on the score sheet? And then even when I figured out, like, my coach finally told me you need to do other things than just score, because I was supposed to be, like, more of a point guy. But I actually would have probably been similar to Charlie would have been the role I should have had. Yeah. Like, that would have been what someone should have told me. Yeah. It's like you're playing like a power forward, but you can put the puck in the net too, or you can make some plays and whatever. It should have been like that, but no one ever told me that. Right. But even after my coach mentioned you need to do other things, he didn't tell me what the other things were necessarily, but I was like, okay, I need to get penalty minutes then, because at least it's on the score sheet, right? So I would, if I wasn't getting points, I would be, okay, I need to fight a guy. I need to, like, get a roughing penalty. Like, I need to do something where, like, my name is on the score sheet. And I remember being so preoccupied with that, as opposed to just do the right things. And those things will just happen, you know? Yeah. And so that process piece that you were talking about, that was one for me that I really, really related to. I remember one time, my last year junior, I knew I was coming up on, like, my last gasp at, like, schools coming to see me. And I remember one game, I'll never forget this. This guy grabbed me after, it was like after a whistle or something, and it was in the 3rd period. And if you got kicked out in the 3rd period, you had to miss the next game if you fought in junior. Yeah. So I remember this guy dropped the gloves and went to fight me, and I wouldn't fight him because I didn't want to be suspended for the next game. I wanted to play the next game when I should have pounded the snot out of this guy. Right? Just based on the circumstance, the right thing to do was just beat the guy up and then be out for the next game. Yeah. But I didn't. I didn't fight him. And I, like, to this day, that moment haunts me, because I was like, that's so dumb. Yeah. You know? So stuff like that. Another one. So this one is interesting. This is a different one. So I had a girlfriend during this time when I was playing junior. And we've talked about girls on an episode before and how they're not necessarily a bad thing if they're supportive to what you're trying to do. And mine was not. Mine was, so it ended up being all those, like, typical things that people say are a problem with having a girlfriend. And
you're young and you don't know, you think you're going to marry her.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So it was it was very, very distracting. So it took away from staying focused on what I need to focus on. And I was always still focused on hockey, and I always put that first, but it was like stupid things like staying up late for no reason, or going out to do this thing socially when I know I shouldn't because I have a game tomorrow. And it was like little things that pulled me away in those moments when I should have been more dialed into what I was doing. Yeah. So that, for me, that was a problem that affected the outcomes for me. And then branching off of that
my girlfriend in junior, I had one for 3 years, maybe 3 years in my junior. and she was wonderful.
I know, and that's why the contrast, because we talked
yeah.
about it the last podcast, how it's not necessarily a bad thing depending on who the girl is, right?
No, it's a good. It can be a good thing, but you got to have someone that has goals or come from a good family that's not going to be a pain in your ass.
Yeah.
They can enhance your life,
right?
Because you know what? If you don't have a girlfriend, then one of the things on your mind is trying to find a chick.
For sure.
Right. So that's what hockey players do. It's like, okay, we're gonna be hound dogs here. We're gonna right. There's girls that hang around all over the place, and you can go that way, or you could have a girlfriend, but you have to make sure that you only have one ass. You can't ride two horses.
Yeah.
So you can't be totally. If she's taking up too much of your time, this won't work. The hockey won't work, but she can enhance your life.
Yeah.
And if that works, there's certain nights where you can hang out, go for dinners, do whatever boys and girls do, and as long as it's not playing with your head, then it works. But if it becomes more than that, and she's like, "You're always hockey. Would you have to do that tonight?" Then you got to go. Yeah, you're not helping me.
Well, and I thought that negative perspective of it until you were actually talking to me about it, because we talked about it with Charlie and his girlfriend, and how you're saying she is that she enhances his situation. She doesn't pull from it. And if it's somebody that drains the resources, then that's not what you want. And that's what it ended up being for me. It was someone who drained the resources.
My thought on that would be, sorry. My thought on that would be like, my wife and I talk about this all the time. It's like, you have to have people in your life, whether you're a hockey player or whatever else you do, you have to have people in your life that enhance your life, not make it miserable or make it challenging, no matter who it is. And when someone enhances your life, then why not have them in there?
Yep.
So like, for example, like I remember my girlfriend, I came home from a game, I think it was a road trip, and it was around my birthday. But the only time that we could really get together was this particular night. So I went over to her house, really nice family. And when I went there, she had made a birthday cake in the shape of a hockey rink, painted it all up with gummy bears and stuff like that. And it gave me a nice golf shirt. And it was like, well, that was nice.
Yeah.
Because I would never get that anywhere else. If I'm going to not that I cared about my birthday, but if I was going to celebrate my 18th birthday somewhere, what it's probably going to be is if I don't have a nice girlfriend, I'm going to have to go out with the guys, and it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah.
So, those things are nice. And it was like, there was a lot of times where, I remember walking to her door one day, and I took a stick across across my lip, and it was puffed out to here, and 6 stitches across my face. I answered the door. She's like, "Whoa!" But anyway, she talked about it. We just talked about it. And she's like, "Wow, man, like that's like you got stitched up and you went out and played." Yeah. And like that's crazy. And then we just talking, but no one else. You can't talk to the guys like that.
Yeah.
So for the few minutes that she was talking to me about that little injury, let's say, I felt like a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, for sure.
I went out. I went out and battled and blood everywhere and got stitches, and I went right back at it. Yeah, I did that. Yeah. She was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." It elevates you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And if you have people that do that for you, it's a good thing.
Totally. And that's it goes for a girlfriend or anyone in general. It doesn't have to be a girlfriend, just anyone that's in your immediate circle, because they take an interest in what you're doing. They care about what you're doing because you care about it. And it's something that can be positive and help push you in the right direction with that thing that you're saying is a goal. And that's what you want out of the people that are around you. And so, but for me, in my situation, it was the opposite. It was draining. It was stressful. It was pulling away instead of adding to. It was all those things. So you need to be smart about those situations. Like, you need to evaluate, is this person someone who's enhancing your situation or not?
Yeah.
And that leads me into my next point, is there's a couple opportunities I missed. And actually, the girlfriend situation was one of the factors that led to me missing some of these things. But, it was one of the, I don't want to blame the girl. It wasn't just her, but it was a factor. And I talked to you about this, is like opportunity to go play in the BCHL that I didn't go to.
Yeah.
And then I had an opportunity to play with the Spits, and I turned it down because I wanted to go for the school thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so those were two opportunities that maybe if I had some guidance from somebody who said, hey, okay, well, let's really think about what this means. Like, what is this league? Like, what does it mean if you get to play there? Like, logistically, how would that work? All those kind of things. and I didn't really have those conversations. And so I just kind of dismissed the opportunities. I didn't really take them. Whereas if I went and ended up going and playing in the BCHL when I had the chance to do that,
that would have been a good thing.
That could have totally changed my trajectory and what was going on for me in junior. So that's the last one that I want to leave off of, is like, there's little opportunities that you could have, and you need to be smart about which ones you're taking and which ones you're not taking. You know, like, do you need to go to every spring tournament until your draft year? You don't need to do that. You know, that's actually could be draining and take away from things like training properly and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes you'll get an opportunity where it's like, okay, like for Charlie, for example, he got invited to play in that game during the COVID lockdown thing. Obviously, that's an excellent thing for him to do. For me, because he had you and he had people around you and Ian and guys like talking to him about that and why that's a good thing, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, obviously we're going to go play in that. In my situation, if I would have been given that same opportunity, because I didn't have hockey people around me, it could have easily been like, my dad's like, it's kind of far. Like, we're busy.
1 day?
Yeah.
Why 1 day?
Yeah, we're a little busy this weekend. Like, I don't know if we'll be able to make that work or whatever. It could have been something like that, right? Which would have been totally in the realm of possibility for somebody like me. So being able to evaluate what your opportunities are was something that missed for me as well. So those are kind of the main, the top five, the fitness thing, the focusing on stats, maybe we'll call it the distraction piece, girlfriend, that kind of stuff. And then those opportunities, because I had the mental piece, like, completely contrast to how you were.
No, you did. I know your family. And I know how you can critically think. I'm very impressed. The more that we work together and the longer I know you, is I'm totally impressed at your critical thinking skills. I'm totally impressed by like when pressure comes, it doesn't really phase you. You can analyze and you can deal with it. It's part of why you're an engineer. And I know your family, like, it's a good family. You learn things, you speak well, you encourage each other. You can talk to your mom about, and she'll help you solve problems. Your dad, in a different way, he does. You can see your dad's work ethic, how he has a business, and it's like, you just got to do the work and stuff like that. So you come from a fabric that's very gritty, but very good, like a very good fabric. And it's very helpful. So you had that, you just didn't. There's other things that you didn't have, and that's the thing with doing this hockey thing. The thing is, it's hard, and sometimes it is the stars just have to line up for you. And if you're missing a piece or two, it might not be enough. But the thing is that I think I'll end on this, is that what we have to understand, if this is truly something that you want to do, first of all, you have to have I've always said this: the dream has to be bigger than the obstacle. And for me, that's what happened is when things started to get tougher, the unknowns happened. Then what happened was I just started changing that. And then look at all the shit that's going wrong. Look at all the stuff. And I didn't focus on this, because I know if I could have just somehow just said, like, whatever it takes, maybe go find it. Maybe there were ways that I would figure things out. So number one, it's going to be very, very tough. So have a passion beyond what you think is real, because it's going to be hard. And when it becomes hard, that just simply means that you're going to have obstacles. So you're going to have things that you just didn't see coming. So then you have to have the ability to detach yourself, or have the critical thinking, or become a problem solver. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah.
Become a problem solver and say, what do I have to do differently? And then use your resources. So that could be us. It could be, there's a million ways that you can go and find problems, but figure that out. And then if you can do that, you just have to have the heart and the desire to go through the work. But there is a mental side. I think, we say this so many times, is if you're going to do this game, you could be the best player in the world, but if you're a mental midget, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. You have to have something mentally that you can get through, to get you through the tough times, the obstacles, and when things aren't going your way.
Yeah.
Or even when they are going your way, like, it might be a coach saying, like, yeah, you scored 50 goals last year, but I need you to block shots and finish hits and the penalty kill. So you have to be able to say, okay, that's my new role. Yeah. And, do the best of your abilities. That's one thing I like about Charlie's coach, is he uses that phrase a lot. Because when you go to school, you're going to do it to the best of your ability. When you come to hockey, you're going to do it to the best of your ability. And if you can, I like the phrase. It's a common phrase, but when he uses it, I just go, I really like the way he says that, because he expects you to do your best.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's great. And the main thing, the reason I thought this would be interesting today too, is because we had such different situations like in our playing careers.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to highlight how different the circumstances can be. Like you took a totally different path than the path that I took, and for different reasons, even though you were good enough.
I apparently was good enough.
Yeah.
You know, and
Right?
many players that they would say the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
there's
like it's always like, what happened? What happened?
Yeah.
No one knew.
Yeah.
No one knew. They saw the 10% of the iceberg. They didn't see the 90%.
Yeah, and there's a whole, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right? There's a whole host of
Yeah.
reasons, and it could be from something like mental toughness. It could be something like you didn't know how to work out, man. And a combination of all of them together could be a reason why, the reason why you don't make it when you thought you were good enough to make it or whatever, right? And it's not, this is what I wanted to highlight. It's not that you got screwed.
Nope.
It's not that you didn't get drafted. It's not that your coach wasn't good enough or your coach didn't like you. It's none of those. It's none of those. At the end of the day, you go back and analyze what happened.
Yeah.
And both of us just talked for an hour and a half about all the reasons why maybe we didn't make it, and not one of them was blaming someone else for something. You know, it's all things that happened through our development that maybe we could have controlled, maybe we couldn't have controlled, but there's actual reasons, you know? And so for kids to try to avoid making some of those mistakes, you can pull from your story, pull from my story, see what maybe things that might line up with you currently right now, and then you can hopefully avoid some of those things and start to ask yourself some questions and you know, have that self analysis to get yourself around those roadblocks as they come up, you know? So
well, the positive side from my side is that once hockey was done, and I coached in the OHL for a year, and I chose at that point, I don't want anything to do with this stupid game, because I was just done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had offers to go play in very good places, made some good money, was on the table, but I took a coaching job, and then I just was done. I was just done with the whole thing because I saw the business side of things. I saw how, and I was just still immature, right? But I was looking at, I go, I just don't like this business. Like I always said, I like inside the glass, but I don't like the business of hockey. And I just said, okay, I'm done with that. Done with this. And then the whole had to decompress now. Like, not that I knew what that meant, but I figured, okay, I'll go do something else. And I didn't know what to do. And I didn't have the skills. I had zero. I'm telling you, I had zero skills. Critical think. I was insecure. I never appeared that way, but I was. And but the great thing was it took me years. Like I went and did my mental toughness training. I went and like through the school of hard knocks, tried everything, did the dumbest things that I thought were going to be good for me. And then I just started analyzing my life, and I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to be a freaking idiot. In the sense of in the sense of I was going to do something with my life, and there was, and it was a process of about 5-6 years, 7 years, where I worked my ass off, reading, working on me, trying things in sales, doing all kinds of things to make myself better, to the point where when I started my business, I was ready, and I developed proper people skills and proper things, and I was able to sell my business, had a good product. I was very conscientious, and I became the person that I wanted to be. And it's a work in progress. But the thing is that if you do it early, you can find that you'll have success in your life earlier. That's all. That's the point. So if I would have had the tools that I have now, like if I did that work when I was younger, I would say that it would probably be a much different life as far as the player goes. Yeah. So
awesome. I think that's good. That's probably about 2 hours. So
yeah.
we'll wrap it there.